off or turn them on silent, please. Cell phones off or on silent, please. Yes. Okay. Second, restrooms are on either side, right outside the door. Handicapped accessible restroom is downstairs. Go out this door, take the elevator downstairs. The restroom is down there. The cafe will remain open until 8 o'clock. Please feel free to go get food or drink and bring it back in. They will close at 8. At the end of the performance, we ask that everyone exit through this door only. Through this door only. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you being here. Enjoy the show.
People with disabilities are forged with group identity. We share a common history of depression and a common bond of resilience. We have generated art, music, literature, and other expressions of our lives and our culture infused from our experience of disability. Most importantly, we are proud of ourselves as people with disabilities. We have embraced our disabilities with pride as part of our identity. We are who we are, people with disabilities. Mythology of disability. And now I am going to introduce you to Dr. Rhoda Huang. She is the daughter of Chinese immigrants who earned her BA in psychology from Amherst College in 1990, a master's in public health from Yale in 1992, her PhD in educational leadership and research from Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge in 1998, and her higher education student affairs leadership career has encompassed 17 years in 5 different institutions, including 7 years in the senior student affairs officer role. She was appointed Dean of Students of the University of Wisconsin in Madison in 2002 at age 33, making her the youngest person in that role at any Big Ten conference institution. She served as Dean of Student Affairs from 2005 to 2007 at the West Campus of Arizona State University. She began her tenure as Vice Chancellor for Student Affairs Education in January of 2008. In over 2,000 presentations to both student and professional audiences, she has focused on scholarship and writing about scholarship, social justice, higher education leadership, health promotion, and the role of gender in violence prevention. She is best known in her field for her work with Louisiana State University's Men Against Violence, which is the first organization of its type in the U.S. And now, welcome Dr. Hall.
Mahalo for that very kind introduction. I just want to say, first of all, what an honor it is to be part of this evening's event. And on behalf of the University of Hawaii at Hilo, who is the proud sponsor of this evening's event, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming out tonight. And I want to give special greetings, especially in my warmest aloha to all the performers in this evening's event. I encourage social justice if you don't include the championing of disability rights for citizens around the world. I want to share a conversation that I had recently with some colleagues around a lunch meal that I thought, at first, it may not seem relevant to tonight's event of Mythology of Disability, but you'll bear with me through the story. So somehow our conversation led to the issue of left-handedness. And we were taking a tally of the number of individuals at the table who had a child, and in my case, nieces or nephews, who were left-handed. So there were 5 of us at the table, and 4 of us had either a son or daughter or niece or nephew who was left-handed. So we sat around, and my colleagues remarked upon, wow, it seems like there's an increasing incidence of left-handedness, and what's all of that about? And I said, well, I have a theory on that. And I think part of it is that once upon a time, we lived in a society where left-handedness was abhorred. It was seen as the sign of evil and devilry, and had religious negative connotations associated with left-handedness. And then people said, oh yes, that's right, I remember when I was in school, and I went to Catholic school, and the nun would grab my knuckles if I tried to use my left hand. So I dug out all the stories and ways in which left-handedness was seen as abnormal, and therefore wrong, and therefore unacceptable. So there were generations of people that had grown up discouraged from their left-handedness. Now as we see a wealth of diversity of research and increasing awareness that perhaps left-handedness is just simply a special difference in genetic makeup, and we are embracing increasingly that left-handedness is simply just not being right-handed, and there really isn't any betterness or anything worse about being favoring one hand or the other. It's allowed for the permission to have more young people go ahead and be left-handed, which is what their natural tendency is. Okay? So I share that story. There's 2 parts to this, because I think that's very important, and that is the construction of what is normal and what is not normal in our society. And I think what I really embrace and why I'm so supportive of the work that's going to be happening tonight in the Mythology of Disability is we have got to come to terms that part of the harm we have done to our family members, our friends, our fellow citizens, who happen to be differently able, is the term I prefer, who happen to be differently able, and the ways in which they're constructed as sometimes less than, not as good as, or abnormal. And you can see that that really is a judgment that society can choose to make, that it's not genetically determined per se. So then that leads to the next part of the conversation that we have. And the woman who was sitting right next to me at the meal said, well, it's really too bad that, I feel bad for the children who are growing up left-handed. Because, it's obviously the world is made for right-handed people. And I said, well, I think what we have to remember is the world was in part made by us. And if we said right-handedness was normal, we made a world where chairs in the classroom suited right-handed people, where pens and scissors and staplers and everything else that we use every day made more sense for right-handed people. So I said, that's not use the world that we created to define, therefore, what is normal, right? It's sort of a dangerous cycle, a spiral, if you will. And so I offer that to you as well, is what are the ways in which we create that cycle and start to, again, construct a mythology about disability that marginalizes and puts aside and alienates those individuals in our lives that happen to be differently able. So I am just so proud. In particular, I know that there's a couple performers that are students at both UH and at Hawaii Community College. I also really appreciate the community members that are here tonight and participating. It's an honor here to be with you and be able to share the gifts that you're going to give to us tonight. So thank you all for having the courage and being willing to share so generously of yourselves. So thank you.
Thank you for that very nice introduction. Now the first presenter tonight is to my left, Susan. She was born in the territory of Hawaii and recently has been diagnosed with several disabilities. She's here to give us her worldview on disability. So Susan, thank you for being here tonight.
I too am left-handed, so I enjoy hearing that story. My knuckles are cracked. Couldn't be that late as the teacher. So consequently, my right-handed writing. It's to try to read, not even myself can read it. My name is Souza, and I am a student at the University of Hawaii, Hilo, and I'll be graduating this May with a Women's Studies certificate. I already have one in religion from 75 in law, and then I'm going to continue on with art. I have a variety of disabilities. The ones that affect me the most, I think, is the medication I have to take because it's actually made me difficult to concentrate and focus on things, and I get confused, and sometimes I forget. But the other things are, my feet don't work pretty good, and I have bilateral carpal tunnel syndrome and other problems like diabetes and so forth. My major, which I'll be continuing in, is art, and you normally would think that a person who's going to become an artist would really need to be able to use his or her hands, and you do. I'm specializing in charcoal. I've just begun to learn. I haven't gotten good yet. But the way that I do it is I get charcoal sticks that are huge. I mean, it's like holding a bar of soap in my hand because I have a hard time hanging on to a brush. And these are some of the examples of what I have been doing. This is my very magnum. It's in charcoal. I'm going to try to make it the Baroque style. I'm not finished with her yet. She too is handicapped. When she was only a little baby, they cut off most of her right foot, so I drew the toes in. But they were actually going to kill her. And she's a handicapped bird. So this is Mary Magdalene. This is a picture. This one is not quite yet finished. I have to work a little on the cheeks. It's a Hawaiian lady. Everything is in charcoal. This is a version of a little older Hawaiian lady in a kind of a sexy pose. And these are fishes. So I intend to continue on with charcoal because that's how I have to be able to become an artist, is something that I don't have to grip onto unless I take brushes to my hands. Being disabled, as far as schoolwork is concerned, I have figured out how to get around the art problem. But I have professors, in particular there's a Dr. Ippolito, and there's others. But in particular, she seems to really understand. And sometimes I always need to take more time because I can't write for one thing. So I will write it and then rewrite it. Working the typewriter is not that easy either. So I've learned to kind of bide my time. I think I'm typing at about maybe 5 words a minute. And I can't remember to spell most of the time, so that takes a lot of time looking it up in the dictionary. And in 1990s, when I first became handicapped, and especially this past semester, I've realized that I also have a learning disability as far as learning. And Dr. Shirachi has been a great help. She's just been a great help. I wouldn't be here this far if not for her. And that's about all that I have to say about it. I'm kind of coming out of denial because I didn't realize that invisible handicaps, even though you can't see them, they do have an effect in our lives. And I've been going to college for 45 years off and on. This time I'm going to get that art degree before I finish this thing. Thank you.
So thank you very much for sharing that. Now I'll be moving to the next group. Hello. Our next two presenters come to us from Hawaii's Music College. To my right is Vanessa, and to my left are Sky. Both of them are deaf. Vanessa was born deaf, while Sky lost her hearing at a young age. They are going to be signing to a song, Waiting on the World to Change by John Mayer, following which they will present a video that shows what the deaf community in general thinks about the song, after which they are going to be presenting their personal life stories. So, ladies, go ahead. who goes first?
I'll be going first. This is Vanessa. My name is Vanessa. I was born deaf. When I was born, my parents' reaction to the situation was, of course, shock at first and confused. They weren't sure what to do and which path for me to go on, to place me in a deaf school, a regular school, or to get a cochlear implant or not. They weren't quite sure, but they did decide at the time to keep me the way that I was. When I was old enough to go to school, my parents placed me into a deaf school at first. And while I was there, my father got kicked out of the parents of the deaf children. It was an advocacy kind of group. And he got kicked out because my father was sick of hearing the other parents' negative comments about their deaf children. And my father felt like, you know, really we're healthy and we should be happy that we have healthy babies and they can do anything, but they just cannot hear and they can do whatever they want. After that incident, my parents decided to put me into part-time in the deaf school, and then in the afternoon I had an interpreter in a mainstream program. And later on, I became a full-time student in a mainstream school with other deaf people there. When I was in 7th grade, I got pulled out of the regular English class. And the reason was because my teacher wanted me to be with the other deaf students and to learn English together. And I thought that was understandable because, you know, English is our second language and ASL is our first language. So I felt it was too easy for me, and I told the teacher that I felt it was too easy for me. And the teacher continued to say, to deny me the ability to move to another classroom. One day I was staying after school for some tutoring, and there's a closet that's typically locked, but it was open that day. I wanted to see what was inside there, and I found the curriculum books, and it said that we were learning English at a 3rd to 5th grade level, and I was in 7th grade at the time, so I didn't like that, you know. So I told my parents that what I saw, and then they put me into a different public school, and I stayed there until I graduated. I was quite happy with that placement because I learned how to be, you know, a little bit in the deaf world and in the hearing world. It taught me a lot of things. And I think that's all I'm going to say for now.
Okay, Sky.
Hi, I'm Sky, and I was actually born hearing, but they found out I was deaf when I was 4 from an ear infection. At the time, my parents still continued to treat me as I was a hearing person, and I was raised that way. I grew up oral, speaking, and I went to a regular public school. When I was ready to go to high school, I was struggling because the teacher would always face the blackboard and be speaking, and I missed everything that they were saying. So my grades got worse and worse, and I had difficult time communicating with people. So my counselor and some of the other staff and teachers there decided to place me in a program at Pearl City High School on Oahu, and I went to check it out and see the program, and I was really amazed when I went in to see students using their hands to communicate. And I had never seen that before. I had no knowledge of deaf culture, deaf people, sign language. So then I got put into that program. A little while later, I was able to learn sign language. Within a few months, I picked it up very well. I was socializing with deaf people. I felt a lot better about that situation. And I was able to communicate with the teachers. There was interpreters there when I had to go to mainstream classes, and I never missed anything that the teachers said after that. I'm really happy with the way I am now, and I'm not ashamed about my deafness anymore. So yeah, I'm really happy about that. That's all I want to say.
the video that you presented, how is that interpretation different from what you showed us?
Well, the video is more related to deaf culture and how we feel. It's a lot of, there's a lot of things that are not, let's see, I'm at a loss for words, but you know, closed captioning has improved in the past, you know, from before. We had to fight, it was a continual fight, but it's not, you know, it's not completely accessible, you know. If we want to go to a movie theater, you know, some of them don't have the closed captioning in. So there's a lot of things that we are still progressing on, you know. This video is showing that the deaf community is not small, it's a lot larger than you think. Our song version was more so from, gosh, I don't know how to explain it, maybe a hearing perspective. Sky, what do you think?
I don't know.
It's really hard to explain. Gosh, I don't know how to explain it. Wait, can you help me?
Yeah, it is hard to explain.
Could it be that one is pop culture and one is more of a social commentary?
Yeah, yes, yeah, more like that.
Well then, I guess that's it. Okay, and now I'll be moving on to our third or fourth, depending on your best level, presenter. So Callie here is a junior in the performing arts department. She's been involved in dance since she was 2, and she's going to be dancing to the song All My Scars Align.
I read the signs, I got all my stars aligned, my amulets, my charms, I set all my false alarms, so I'll be someone who won't be forgotten. I've got a question, and you've got the answer. I do a dance to make the rain come, smile to keep the sky from falling down, down, down. Collect the love that I've been given, build a nest for us to sleep in. You know it's real. I check my palms, the cracks in.
Thank you, Callie. That was very nice.
Thank you.
Now, please tell us about yourself.
Hi, I'm Callie. I have what you call a learning disability. It was started to notice when I was in preschool, when I was behind in basic motor growth skills, like, cutting scissors, drawing, writing. They actually wanted to send me to a special school, like a charter school, or to repeat the preschool program. When I was at the end of first grade, I was tested for learning disability, and they found it, and I started a program called Learning to Read, which is how I learned how to read. And it was basically a picture of the word, like let's say apple, and then they would have the word underneath it, and that's actually how I learned how to read. As I got older, I started taking resource classes, which is basically a separate class from the mainstream class, and you go there every day, and they teach you math, writing, and reading. I went through that up until 6th grade with English. I was able to go to the regular mainstream English class. Then by 9th grade, I was able to go to Algebra 2. And I finished high school, and I ended up going to a private high school, which was really different because it was a parochial all-girls school, which I had been in public school before that. And then I went to college, and here I am.
And you are doing what at college? What's your degree?
Performing arts.
Anything else?
Oh yeah, and history. I'm a history major as well.
Well, that's an interesting combination.
Yeah, I plan on becoming a dance and history teacher.
And what led you to get the double major?
Well, I've always been involved with dance, and I wanted to keep it up. And then history was kind of not my original plan. I wanted to actually do marine science, but my math skills weren't up to par, so I couldn't do marine science. So I chose history instead.
Okay, are you going to write anything about, I don't know, a combination? Dance and history of dance, maybe?
Well, in a couple of years after I write my senior thesis, maybe I will do dance history. I don't know yet. I'm kind of working on my senior project for my performing arts program right now.
Okay, well, good luck with that. And thank you.
Thank you.
And now on to our final performance. Steve Brown is an associate professor and disability scholar at the Center on Disability Studies. He's an affiliated faculty member at the Political Science Department. And he is also the co-founder of the Institute on Disability Culture at UH Manila. He earned his doctorate in history in 1981 from the University of Manila. And after he was denied a job due to discrimination based on his disabilities, he had a change of life, and he became an advocate for disability rights. He also wrote a book, Movie Stars and Senseless Scars, essays on the journey from disability change to disability talk. And you heard a excerpt from that book at the beginning of the event this evening. Steve has lecture on disability culture, disability rights, disability rights, globally, US, Canada, many parts of Europe, and Saigon. And he's here tonight to show some insights into disability, as well as a few videos and poems. So Steve, welcome.
Thank you, Martin. Don't worry, I'm not going to lecture. So I'm delighted to be here, and I'm really delighted to be with all these wonderful folks up here and everybody in the audience. It's really great. I started thinking about, writing about, and talking about disability culture in the late 1980s, early 1990s. And when I did that, I first started talking about it like this as a talking head. And I realized really quickly that didn't convey the message I wanted to convey. So I was thinking about it, and I was writing a lot of poetry, so I wrote a poem. And I wanted to say there are two abbreviations in this poem that some of you may not know. One is ASL, which you're seeing behind me, American Sign Language. And the other is TDD, which is Telecommunications Device for the Deaf, which isn't so common anymore. But when I wrote the poem, people who were deaf used TDDs to speak to one another on the phone, or to adapt phones so people who are deaf could speak to one another. So Tell Your Story is the name of the poem. Tell your story, tell your story. It may bump from the page like words of braille, sizzling in tales of blazing glory. It may glisten in the sunshine like the Holy Grail. So tell me a tale, even if it's gory. I'm yearning to hear you tell your story. Have you heard about the man in the motorized chair, found no ramp at the movie theater? Did he despair? No. Just let them dudes lift him in there. Came back a few days later, after something greater. Brought with him a crew. People in chairs just grew and grew. Said they knew they'd be part of the view. No problem getting in. Just lift and push and move those hunks of tin. The chairs, they weighed aplenty. The ushers stressed and strained and got somewhat benty. Seeing the movie was not the goal. Changing the stage was the whole. They paid for getting in, but that theater knew it sinned. People in chairs sealed their own personal stamp on that theater's shimmering new wheelchair ramp. Tell your story. Tell your story. It may enrapture the floating air like ASL singing its flare. It might even glisten like the Holy Grail, but no one will set their sail toward your tail, even if it's hunky-dory, unless you tell your story. Tell your story. Once I knew a lady got caught in a picket line, changed her whole design, came back to her hometown mission-bound, told a hospital it was ailing because it was failing to see good health bound in the key of phone lines hooked up with a TDD. Said she'd seek cooperation or she'd be mighty angry. Might even round up folks and stoke fires of insurgency. Gather signatures and seek publicity. You know that hospital saw the light. Put an end to the no TDD blight. Last time I saw that lady, she was waving a sign, telling a TV station she sure did mind. No news she could see, so why should she listen to what they wanted her to be? Now she knows how to stick it with a picket, and her pockets have been lined with advocacy. Tell your story. Tell your tale. You will find you touch with the sureness of a crutch, a framework for your dwelling, a story needing telling, steaming like a sunburnt trail, glistening like the Holy Grail. Who will know what you entail unless you risk the path to glory? Tell your story. Tell your story. Does he want another cup of coffee? I heard the waitress ask about the man. How did I know his plan? Just because he couldn't see didn't mean his brain rested in incompetency. The stories he has told, brisk and bold, I've shared with more than a few over a cup of coffee or a tall cold brew. The lessons are in the telling. They provide a framework and a dwelling. We all have so many stories to bear, cry, laugh, sing, and despair. How will our children learn and compare? If we're too timid to dare to raise the flare, share that we care. Tell your story, sing your tale, tell our story, shout our glory. Tell our story, tell our story. It may not bring fame, it may have no glory, but cut through someone's life like a ray of sunshine. Break away barriers like a layer of turpentine. Tell your story, tell your tale. We're not as elusive as that Holy Grail. Tell your story. Thank you. So, to share a little of my story, I was about 6 years old, almost 6. I lived in Kalamazoo, Michigan, southwestern Michigan, and I was playing outside one night, and I came home and I was limping for no apparent reason. And I kept limping, and I was apparently in some pain. I don't really remember any of this. And in Kalamazoo, nobody could find out what was going on, and I kept limping. So my family had some ties. My grandparents went to the Mayo Clinic in Minnesota, and they took me there. So when I was 6, I got on my first plane ride, which in the 50s was a really big deal. And my mother and my grandmother and I went to the Mayo Clinic, and they did biopsies on both my thighs, and they discovered something called Gaucher disease, which is probably most of you, or maybe none of you, have heard of. It's identified by a French physician. That's where the Gaucher comes from. And at the 50s, the late 50s, when they diagnosed it, what they knew was the name. They knew it was genetic. They knew that there were 3 strains, that in the other 2 strains, people died very early. In the strain I had, which is called the adult strain, people tended to live typical lifespans. And there might be bone involvement, and there might be spleen and liver and other organ involvement, but nobody could predict any of that. So in my case, I had a lot of bone involvement, and it started pretty early. And actually, after the biopsy, when I came home and I was playing football and I broke my leg because I hadn't healed enough, but nobody knew that would happen. So I went through a lot of different kinds of things as a young person and a teenager. I experienced something that with this disease is called, now it's called bone crises. In those days we called them attacks. And it's now they know a lack of oxygen to the joints, and it's incredibly painful, and for me it started in my knees, and I'd spend about 2 weeks where I literally couldn't move, couldn't put any weight on my leg. It was excruciating to do anything. Sit, stand, lay, didn't matter. It just hurt. So, and then when I was a teenager, I began breaking bones. I broke a bone in my hip and started using crutches to keep the weight off, and all kinds of other things like that. So that's one side of what was happening. But on the other side, I was doing everything, except when my disability showed up, that all my peers and family was doing. I was going to school, I was playing, I was doing whatever. So I went to college like it was expected of me, and got a degree in history and became a historian, as Martin said. And that's when I really began to become involved in the disability rights movement, because I was giving a lecture. It was my first class. It was a big lecture, freshman history class, and 2 young men came up after the class and asked me if they could take my lecture because I talked too fast. And they were both, one was blind and one had a visual impairment, and we started talking to one another, and I told them I used a cane. And they asked me if I'd be interested in coming to a meeting at this local organization that was just starting called an Independent Living Center. And I said, well, okay, another meeting, just what I want. But because I was trying to connect with them, I went, and actually all kinds of wonderful things happened at this meeting. They were organizing a statewide conference, and they were going to talk about lots of different kinds of things, and so I started volunteering. And this was a year in the early 1980s when there weren't very many jobs in the social sciences, and in my particular field there were 2, and I knew as a graduate from Oklahoma I wasn't going to get one. So this year when I was teaching, it was actually a position that the department had created for 1 year for some of us who graduated 1 a year, and we could teach and try and find a job during that year. That didn't happen. So at the end of the year, I'm sitting in our house, and I get a call from the chair of my department, and he says there's a guy in a company in Tulsa, I'm in Norman, a company in Tulsa who would like someone to write a history of their association. Would you be interested? And I said yes, and we talked, and I did a proposal, and it was all over the phone. It was accepted. And then one day he said he was going to be flying from Tulsa to Dallas, was going to lay over in Oklahoma City, and he'd like to meet me. So I said sure, and I'd be easy to recognize because I was about 6'4", which I was in those days. And I had a beard and I used crutches. And as soon as he heard crutches, the conversation changed. So he asked me what was wrong in 1982. I had no problem talking about that. And we met. It was kind of, from my perspective, not a very good interview, but the way we left it was he'd call me and tell me when to come up to Tulsa the next week and sign the papers. But I didn't hear from him. So I called, and I was told that they didn't think somebody who used crutches could write a book. And the other thing I remember from this very long conversation was in Oklahoma, where college football is very big. Maybe if you had the physique of a football player, you'd have the stamina to do this, but since you don't, we don't think you do. So I slammed down the phone, got in my car, drove to the Independent Living Center, said, what can I do about this? And they said, well, nothing. And I went through a process with several other organizations, and the same thing happened. I went to the Oklahoma Human Rights Commission. They opened a case. 6 months later, they said, yes, you've been discriminated against because of your disability, but there's nothing we can do about it. It's not illegal. So, I tell that story still for a couple of reasons. And one is because exactly the same thing could happen today, 20 years after the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed. And the reason is, this was a company that had fewer than 15 employees and no federal funds, which means it's not covered by the ADA. So as wonderful as the ADA is, there are still gaps with it. And as horrible as that story is, it really did turn my life into a new direction. I often say I became radicalized overnight. And I started volunteering at the Independent Living Center every day. That summer, in the fall, 2 new positions were funded, and I got one. I was doing disability rights kinds of organizing or activity ever since, until I came to UH. And one of the many wonderful things about those experiences since then have been that I've had the opportunity to meet an incredible number of wonderful people. And one of them is a guy named Neil Marcus, who has a disability called dystonia, which is somewhat similar in the way it appears to cerebral palsy, but not. And I'm telling you this because I'm going to share some of his work. And Neil he spent a lot of time writing. And eventually his writing got to people who were in theater, and they created a play. All of them created a play called Storm Reading. And some of you may have heard about that. Storm Reading has toured all over the world, including Hawaii. And the final performance of Storm Reading was in LA, and they recorded it. So we now have a version of it, and I'm going to share a couple of pieces from it. I often call it a one-person play that takes 3 people to do, because you'll see Neil, who's using a chair, and who has a speech impairment, and a voice interpreter and a sign interpreter. So Sherry, are you ready?
Of course! I knew I had seen this before. Neil, you are a living brush. Oh, yes, you old goat. You know, the Chinese calligraphers, they study years to move, just like you do. And their goal is to hold the brush as still as a rock in one hand, and then move it with an entire body. When I saw you stand and lean, no. Fly! I knew I'd seen it before. My God, you are a living brush. Your hand is your entire heart and soul. The way you move is directly from you. You is total expression. You can't hide it. My God, man! I love it! Burger King. Can I take your order, please?
Yeah.
Hello? Hi? Are you all right?
Yeah.
Oh. Did you just order?
Yeah.
Oh, crap. Oh, hi. I'm sorry. Can we take it again, please? All right? Okay. All right, okay, all right, okay, You'd like a cheeseburger? Yeah! Thank God he wants a cheeseburger. Wonderful. French fries?
Yeah.
Coke? Apple pie? Onion rings? That's it, right? And a vanilla milkshake. Yeah, all right. Is that it, sir?
So if you ever have a chance to
Fine.
see it, to find it, it's about an hour-and-a-half production, so that's a very small part of it. The next one is a woman who unfortunately is no longer with us, and her name was Hannah Stowe. She used to come to Hawaii every year for a conference that we put on, usually always in the spring, Pacific Rim Conference on Disabilities. And she was an academic and an artist and an advocate. And toward what became the end of her life, she started doing a lot of dancing. So at this particular conference, she and her partner, Michelle, were lunchtime entertainment and did a number of dances. And we're going to share one. Tanis is the one using the chair.
Inside, you know we're gonna jive with
by the way, in addition to using a wheelchair, Candace was deaf. So I've used a lot of different kinds of mobility aids in my life. I mentioned a cane and crutches, and I also used both manual and motorized wheelchairs for a long time. And one of the things that I realized when I was using a manual chair especially is I could dance. And so there are a lot of people, you may have seen some of us in our wheelchairs dancing, and I put that to words at one point too. So I wrote this poem called The Wheeling. There's a new dance craze making the rounds. Don't matter about the speed or sounds. Going to boogie, boogie, boogie in a new space. Cranking it up with a different pace. First thing you gotta do is be prepared, be prepared. Be prepared for something new. Gotta get off your heels. Move onto your wheels. Wheels, wheels, wheels. Take your chair out to the floor. Make them rhythms roar. Wheelie, speed and soar. Skid your wheels. Hear the squeals. People watching you twist. Wondering what they've missed. Make a splash. Roll and slash. Send your chair onto the floor. Make them rhythms roar. Wheelie, speed and soar. Do the wheelie, be a big dealie. Do the wheels, no need to stay on your heels. Watch them sidewall soar, flashing more. Them dancers diggin' to their core. Listen to them rhythms roar, wheelie, speed and soar. Be prepared for something new, something new, something new. It's a craze catching on with more than a few. Off your heels, on your wheels. Slip and slide and ask for more. Make them rhythms soar to a new folklore. Wheelie. So now, it's my pleasure to introduce the dynamic young man I've gotten to know a little bit over the last couple of days, our moderator, Martin Hodap, who's going to talk a little bit about his story.
Hello, everyone. So, I was born with Duchenne muscular dystrophy. It's a genetic muscle wasting disorder. The prognosis for it, well, isn't so good. Most people only live an average of 18 years. I'm not letting that stop me. I'm trying to make a full life out of it. I was diagnosed when I was 4. My parents treated me like the others. We had the same rules, same privileges. I even had a help around the house, as much as I could, not much, but yeah, did it anyway. I had a typical relationship with my siblings, we can imagine, typical stuff. Still wrestling matches, right? They were friends. They didn't really care. I was disabled. They were, however, mindful of it if we ever did something together. I went to normal schools. I got rather lucky. The schools, the teachers, they all tried to incorporate me. Schools got ramps put in, they figured out trips to the restroom, allowed work. The classmates, they were very nice. They never gave me any negative comments or anything. They in fact argued over who got to push my manual wheelchair during recess. In 2002, I got my service dog puppy, who was sitting behind Steve right here. And he's trying to do anything. Pick up things that fall down, open doors, close doors, do the lights, and most importantly, against my parents if I need them, which is frequent. But he also just gives me a sense of confidence to just drive out. That was particularly important when I was younger. And in that same year, well, I left school in 5th grade, so to do homeschooling, because we were trying to keep my mind challenged. I still maintained contact with
we're getting things set up, I just wanted to say thank you one and all for devoting your, and it is a devotion, by the way, your Friday evening to this wonderful event. Okay, oh wow, that was fast. That was really good setup. Okay, so now here we go. My name is Susan Chirachi, and I work in the Disability Services Office. I didn't want to cry, but it's been a wonderful pleasure working with the entire crew. And so now I know how Jackie feels after her physical projections and all that. It's just wonderful. And then we have Caleb. We have Caleb over there, and she's also going to be co-moderating.
And before we get started, I just have, because I'm the announcement lady, I just had a couple little announcements. First off, in your programs, there is a survey. You can either take the time to fill out the survey this evening and drop it off, or there's a website, it's a Survey Monkey survey, so the website is printed both on the survey and in your program. You can go online and fill it out, and it'll be available for the next 2 weeks. Is that correct, Susan? Yeah, so another week or so. So please take the time, let us know how you feel about this program, so perhaps we can bring something like this to you again. The second announcement I'd like to make is for the students in the house. All of the UH students, there are cool points available for attending tonight. Please make sure you stop in the cafe on the way out and get your cool points.
What is it? I don't know. What's the code?
Okay, so okay, we are going to have now sort of like an open discussion. I firmly believe that it's good to have a dialogue, to have a healthy society and healthy, I guess, cultural perspectives about what makes our society such a beautiful creation. So,
well, first we need to introduce the two people who have joined us on stage.
Oh yes, I'm sorry.
So, this lovely woman sitting in front of me, during the rehearsals, we've come to know her as Mom.
Mother.
You call me mother, I call her Mom. This is Marianne Kodak. This is Martin's mother. And she's come up to join us to talk about the caretaker, what this means to her.
Good evening. Well, as Kelwa said, I'm Martin's mom, and as a parent of a disabled child, you're often asked, how are you doing this? The answer to this comes when you first hear that your child is disabled. That's when you have to decide how are we going to deal with that. There are two ways. You can either despair, which does not help the disabled child. It doesn't have the siblings. Despair also doesn't find a cure for the disease. Or you can try to live with this, to accept it, and try to give your life, your child, a life as fulfilling and as happy as possible, and as normal as possible. And this is the way we decided to go. It's not easy, and sometimes it's even hard. But nobody ever promised us that life is going to be easy. And quite frankly, if life would be easy, it probably would be boring.
Now we're going to hear from Willie, and Willie is a partner. Yes? Sorry. A partner and a very new student to UH, so she's also going to share her story.
Hi, my name is Willie. When I first met Shirachi, my partner goes to the UH. She is considered handicapped. Now, we had nobody to take her around, drag her books and everything else, whatever they need. So I got involved. So I'm actually taking care of her by taking her 2 classes, entering the same class, trying to get all her homework or whatever I could do. Then we found out I want to come back in. I'm also handicapped. I have carpal tunnel syndrome. I'm diabetic. I have a learning disability. I'm handicapped with my hands. I do play music when I can. And so what we're trying to do is kind of help each other in this handicap program. So I'll be able to help her because she has this kind of lost, because of age, I guess. And I'm doing this. Excuse me, I'm sorry. But anyway, I'm entering this fall for the first time. Well, not the first time. I've been here in 1996 and 97. I was under the women's study. I did pretty good for learning disability. And my professors were great. When I took my test, it was always audible. Right now, I'm trying to speak very good English. Because if I get carried away, my pidgin comes out. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to find if we can have a curriculum on pidgin language. You know, it's part of our society because pidgin is well known. It's a universal language. We can speak to anybody in the world. So, and they're trying to change me, you know what I'm saying? Make me speak standard English? Well, no way. No way I'm going to give this up or anything because I'm still standing here and using the language that I was taught, which was Hawaiian. But then I moved to Honolulu, so then I was taught English. But it never helped because we still got that pidgin. And people confuse pidgin to broken English. Pidgin, we add words, we add letters, you know. Broken English, we take them and we pass all the words out. And we only use little bit, you know. We don't add nothing. So there's a difference. So I've met a lot of foreign students. I got along well with them. I have a friend who's from Japan. And the professor can't understand him. So my partner tells him, Willie understands me. And he said, how? I said, because we speak the same language as she does. So we do the communication in pidgin. And then we have more other ones joining in. Oh, I learn how to speak like that. I go, you're already speaking like that. I mean, why change it? I mean, I know you need a good standard English, and I'm glad that there are the young ones who are learning, and they're learning their own language, which is Hawaiian, and I'm glad. But this is what happens when we are oppressed. Because we lost the language many years ago. And now I'm glad it's coming back to the youth, the younger generation. And there's no way they can change me because I've had it before and then it's gone. Now I'm getting old. I'm too old to be going back and learning my language. How do you know if I'm not going to be tonight if I walk out the door, I'm going to get banged? Hey, I'm just going to try to do my best, and hopefully my language, this is my second language. Actually, it's my first language. English is my second. But anyway, I hope that this program has done a lot of understanding for all handicapped. It doesn't matter what it is, even if it's invisible. Thank you.
So now we'd like to open up a conversation, an open dialogue between everybody, about this concept about disability as a culture. You've heard it, I think, mentioned quite a bit here. You've witnessed it in partial and almost maybe totality to some people. And so we wanted to maybe open up the floor to if you have any questions. The panelists have consented that they're willing to answer questions within their comfort level. Okay, so I have to put that caveat Any questions?
I can talk loud. I know that the deaf community has a culture because of a shared language. I'm curious about people with other disabilities, whether it's a learning disability or muscular dystrophy, whether you get together with other people with the same handicaps and feel like you have a shared culture.
Callie?
Hi. Being in the smaller classrooms, like the resource classes that I mentioned before, yeah, the students are a lot closer because it's usually only like maybe 4 or 5 people, and you get to know them and you learn about like their lifestyles and their family life and everything. So yeah, it's really close. Yeah, I guess that's what you want to know.
Susan, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
As my helper said over there, I'm old. But I don't know that. The young students, which almost all of them are, everybody's younger than me. And I just love the young students in particular. And I think the only thing that they see that is a handicap is this thing. And at first, I felt kind of strange walking into the classroom, and I walk in and, I feel like Grandma Moses or something walking in there. But it didn't take long at all for none of us to recognize that there was an age difference, because it just disappeared. We just had a birthday party a couple days ago from the Japanese student, and we've been good friends for 2 semesters. And it only occurred to me about a couple of days ago that this is a 22-year-old student. And what made me realize it is that, yeah, I've been working for this art degree 45 years now, off and on. And she went, oh, that's twice as long as I am old. And I looked around and I'm discovering most of the students are in their early 20s. And we have just enjoyed each other. They picked my brain, they picked my partner's brain, because they seem to think we have a lot of wisdom, and I'm beginning to believe them. And I've been picking their brain too. Both of us have been picking their brains, because they've got all this young energy and modern styles and modern learning, and they've been helping me figure out how to turn these computers on and off, which I don't like computers, but they've been really nice about helping. The handicap, the only time that I seem to notice it is when one of them goes, sometimes 2 or 3, go running to the door to open the doors in the classroom and stuff, because sometimes I do trip. I have arthritis spikes on the bottom of the heels, and when I eat too much pork, I get the gout, and that's miserable. So far this semester, I have not been on the wheelchair, but sometimes I'm on for 3 or 4 months. And I draw my strength from the young students. Age, color, language hasn't seemed to have had a single thing to do with it, except they seem to think that I've got all this stored knowledge. And hey, it's flattering, I take advantage of it. I tell them whatever they ask that I know that they don't know, like, there's a lot of things that's come about through my lifetime. But I do have this handicap, I know I do. I do fall asleep in classes. I will ask the same question over and over and over, because I forget. I get confused because of all of the different medications, because I also have diabetes and heart troubles and other things. But they'll wake me up. If I'm snoring in class, I'll hear Auntie Susan. Auntie Susan, get up, get up. Yes. And I'm dealing with this handicap. I have been in denial for a long time. And I think I still am to some point, because I have this, I think I'm still back in my 20s and 30s. And actually I'm just about at 70.
No, you're still in your 20s. Who said that?
Bless you. I love you too.
I think there was somebody else over here on this side that was wanting to comment. Steve, did you want to comment briefly on the question?
Why did you say briefly? Actually, I have a really brief answer, which is that my wife, who also has a disability, one of the things that she says when we're going to a conference that we know is a lot of friends, a lot of people with disabilities, is she says, it feels like going home. And I think that's a really good description because there's a physical, a spiritual, an emotional, and a mental shorthand when we're around each other that we don't have other places.
What an excellent question. Thank you. I know there are other hands up there. I'm just going to take the closest one. You're next.
Thank you, Susan. I'd first like to point out that Susan, I'm sorry.
Like John Philip Susan.
I can speak loud enough.
That's close enough.
I just want to first point out that you don't draw your strength from us, we draw our strength from you. Everybody in our class is, I always draw my strength from the crowd. And I was just wondering, out of everywhere that you experience, do you feel that Hilo and maybe more specifically the UH Hilo community is more accepting and better encompassing everything? That's just how I felt. Open to anybody.
This university, is this thing on? Yeah.
This University of Hilo, I don't, it's godly. You know, everybody is so nice, so generous. I haven't met one impolite person at all. The young students are so respectful, and I don't know if it's because this is Hilo, or because this is Hawaii, or because you guys are just good, decent people who have been trained well by your parents, who show a lot of respect. And I respect every single one of you. I have grandchildren and great-grandchildren. I don't remember how many. I know there's at least 10 grandchildren and there's at least 5 great-grandchildren. And there's a part of me that see all of you as my Hanai children. You know, some of you are going, you know, a little bit astray, and she also is in school with me, and we feel almost like, not like mother hens, but family, like family. And this school not only has an excellent education and excellent professors. I've got 4 that they're wonderful. Those people like Shirachi. And I am touched by all of you and the respect. You know that I guess it's your parents training you, or maybe it's just natural. I haven't met one mean person on campus. Not a single one. And we really love all of you. The youth energizes us.
Thank you for that very touching. Can I say something too? This is from Vanessa. I was in another college in the Northeast, in Rochester, New York, and it was a deaf college. And so, it was, the classrooms were shared with hearing students as well. I don't know if any of you are familiar with RIT, but I attended there for 2 years, and when comparing the two, I feel more comfortable here than I was there. Because people here are very supportive compared to people over there. Even though they are familiar with deaf culture, I still felt oppressed, in that environment. Because there was some kind of a sneaky way that they did it, treating us dumb. Where here I feel like I'm a normal person. I was at UH Hilo last semester, and I met Susan Shirachi. And I felt, I never felt like, in other schools I felt uncomfortable, and here I felt like, it's my home. So I've appreciated and enjoyed being here.
sky.
I wouldn't know what to say.
And that's why I love you too.
Okay, we have a gentleman.
Please, this young lady over here would like to ask a question.
That's respect. I have had the opportunity over the last 3 months to know Martin and his mother and father. And I realized when we first met, I realized that I wanted to communicate with you, Martin, but I didn't know that you had such a speech ability. And I apologize because I really didn't want to do something that would be uncomfortable for you. And I don't know if this is a typical thing that many, many people might do, but I remember, Marianne, you said something, how frequently people will say something about Martin, but not to Martin. Oh, how is he? Or something like that. And I'm guessing that might be moderately, depending on the disability, but pretty common. But Martin, I'm so glad we're getting to be friends. And I love Dudley, your dog. So I just want to say that I thought of myself as sensitive to disabilities, but I didn't give you the credit or the respect that you deserve. And it was because I just didn't realize you could talk like you do. And so I'm glad I know. And also, excuse me, go ahead.
That's the reason I have a microphone right here. I thought that a few months ago. It's like, I can't talk to people. There are 5 people talking. No one hears me. Can't communicate that. And it can confuse people. Get them on the wrong thought process.
So when I first met you, you didn't have the microphone?
I think I did, but it wasn't on.
Oh. Well, please keep it on. Thank you. Oh, and Marianne, I mean, you are an example to all of us of what a parent-child relationship can be. And I just really salute you.
On that point, I'd just like to point out something that Marianne goes with Martin to class at UHUA, and because she's good in class with him, she's actually pursuing her own degree, and I think that's amazing.
I can probably talk without loud enough so that everybody can hear. And I'm going to ask a question about when handicaps are not diagnosed early. I have a handicap, eye problem called a strabismus that was not diagnosed till I was past 50, and that's 20 years ago. So